Hey guys, it's Jenny, and I have been having a little bit of trouble with my video camera, so hopefully this will work out okay. I had a lot of trouble focusing the autofocus last time. Something was off. So I was going to film a layout I was going to do for the Scrap Our Stash blog with a new challenge they're going to have that I think is really clever, and I really wanted to share the challenge, and then hopefully something good will come out of the project. So I'll start by showing you what the challenge is. It's a tic-tac-toe board. I know the color is distorted whenever I show my iPad on here, and I apologize. They have a tic-tac-toe board, and so you're supposed to, you know, come up with a tic-tac-toe direction and use the things they have, which I just think is a great starting point for any project, and sort of limits you from getting too overwhelmed from product, which I seem to be in a big rut of right now. So the way I'm planning on doing is this sort of diagonal here, which is chipboard, decorative pins, and 5 or more brads. That, or I may go for... No, we're just going to say we're going to do that because I've got chipboard, and I do have some washi and things. I may end up using just about everything that's on here, but that's the plan. And I have a photograph and everything here, so I'll just go through a little bit of it, and then I'm going to go ahead and speed it up, but I may talk through a good bit of it. So hopefully that color is back to a little bit more normal. So I've just got white cardstock. I bought the new Wild and Free pad that came from Hobby Lobby, and I had gone to Hobby Lobby a week or two ago, and they had the Wild and Free, the Finley collection from Glitz, the Color Wash collection from Pink Paisley, and the new Heidi Swap collection, which I can never remember the name of. Mixed Company, that's it. And there are so many similar things in all of these collections, a lot of this sort of watercolory look in the background, which I love. And anyway, I couldn't believe that the Hobby Lobby I go to, which is, no offense, not that great about stocking things, actually had all of those in stock, and ironically they only had one of each, and I picked everyone up, and they were all 50% off. So anyway, I've used a little bit of this so far, but I haven't used a whole lot, and this is perfect because it's just, for my daughter, it's just right up her alley of pictures and symbols and hearts and color and the horses and everything. So I'm going to use that, and the page, or the pattern I was thinking, and it's double-sided. I mean, I think you get 2 of each, 24, so 12 double-sided. And they're a good weight. They're not, you know. So this is the background I was thinking about doing, and I may either have like a smaller piece of white in the middle with the photo matted to it, or have a white background with a piece of this matted to it. I'm not quite sure. And I have this piece of Echo Part here and now, and I like that side of it too, or maybe a little piece of that. I don't want it to be too busy. So that's what I'm thinking of for paper, just kind of keeping it a little bit simple. I was thinking about using this chipboard rose and doing some watercolor behind it, like I'd been doing a little bit of, or maybe some of the little banner strips and making a little banner. And I've got some label stickers. These would be the stick pins, decorative pins, either some of those. Resin flowers. I've got other pins, but I thought about using those. I've got a bunch of neat fabric swatches from SEI. Then I may use a little piece of behind just to give it a little bit of texture. And got some chalkboard stickers, some doilies, some other new little stickers and bits and pieces. Sequins, some of these stickers that were in a scrapbook circle kit. they're a nice sort of vanilla chipboard glitter. So I thought about using that for part of the title and maybe some of these letter stickers for the other part. And we've been painting our bathroom, so I have a pile of paint chips, and I really love this sort of peachy color. I thought would be nice. And I got a new stencil to try out. And then I've got this big collection of some of my favorite brads that I won't go through. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use yet, but they're mostly my Mind's Eye and a couple October Afternoon. So we'll see how that works. And then I picked this up at Target. It's the We Are Memory Keepers, and it's very similar to a lot of the Dear Lizzie. I just thought those were some neat little things to tuck behind places. Love those patterns. That's nice. I love this day. So I've got this photograph of my daughter after she got her braces off, and it just changed her face completely. And so my husband had taken this photograph just sitting around, and I had been planning on doing for a long time a layout or sort of a page for her for later, where I wrote a little letter to her about the changes that she's going through now and some of the, the problems and discussions and everything that we've been going through. She is 9, and so this is about the time that, mothers and daughters have a little bit of tension or not tension or get closer, and so we've been going through a little bit of that, and I thought this would be a good time to kind of write something that she can read later. And sort of, I kind of plan to do maybe several of those, or maybe, one every 6 months kind of thing, and keep it in an album and give it to her later when she's like 18 and out of the house. I'm just kidding. So anyway, I thought about using that envelope, but I really don't want it to be too distracting, and I don't really have any other craft going on, so I may end up using something more plain, or just tuck something behind something, or maybe I'll cut one on the silhouette. So that's where I'm going to start, and I will go from there. Okay, I've had some more requests to do a little bit more talking and talk through my process a bit instead of having as much music. So I am going to do that with this one. I'm just trimming down my photo here, and I plan to have a white border on it, and then I really kind of like the contrast of just that dark black. So I'm going to cut down this piece of the sort of painted wash paper from Glitz. I really wanted to have that green in there, so I'm just trying to figure out how much of that I wanted and where, and I kind of had decided, instead of making a frame with either that and a white border, or the opposite, if that makes any sense, just to have this main strip across the front. And I had that back paper that's Echo Park that's got the flowers on it. My daughter's middle name is Rose, so I always like to use a little flower if I can. And so I thought I might mount all of that on another piece, because I thought that hot pink was really maybe too hot, and that it needed a little bit more subtlety. So I'm just trying to flip through and find something else. And I love that, and that's actually was the perfect size, but I really didn't want to take too much away from that watercolor wash paper. So in the end, I decided to leave it as it is and just attach it to the white. I just cut that little strip of those tiny sort of triangle arrows there at the top. And I plan to mist a doily, or I ran out of doilies, so I hadn't had any in a while, so I guess I was kind of anxious to use it, but I didn't really like the texture it gave it. I wanted it to be a little bit cleaner, so that's the envelope. I couldn't decide whether or not it was going to be too much of a different contrast with the craft, but I actually think it worked quite well because of that sort of orangey color in that watercolor paper. So I'm pulling out my paint chips, which I love to do if I ever feel like I need some more color or need a little something different without having too much other pattern going on. So I think I had decided on that yellow at the bottom. And these are these little fabric swatch sort of strips that are from SEI. And they have like the pinked edge around the edge. pink edge around the edge. And so I thought I might layer a few of those in the background. I thought they were adhesive, but for some reason either I couldn't get it off or it really isn't adhesive, so I gave up on that and decided just to use it as is. I've also had these overlays from crepe paper that I've wanted to use for a while, but so many of the pictures I scrap now are Instagram photos, and so they either have a filter on it or they don't really need it. So, and this is actually an odd size because I printed it on a 5x7 first, so that didn't really work. I did use it underneath just to give a bit of a sort of vellum look to that flowered paper. So I'm just kind of laying things out again, and then I decide to somehow that paper actually turned out to be just about the right size. The floral turned out to be the exact same size as that envelope, which I think worked out well. I really like that black and white polka dot, even though there's not really other black and white except for the photograph, so I kind of thought that would be a good way to bring that in. And I love these little this little We Are Memory Keepers pad. I couldn't decide. I didn't want to add, like I said, too much more pattern, but I did cut off that sort of piece of the it says remember you are loved, and text on the corner of that envelope there, and the envelope is where I'm going to put my letter, obviously. And the other thing about the paint strips is great is because it's sort of that built-in ombre effect without having to do too much work, and I just think it's neat and different and free. Well, sort of free. Still paid for the paint. So in the end, I didn't use that hot pink swatch of fabric. I thought it was I didn't really want to take away too much from that other hot pink part. So now I've kind of committed, and I've decided to go ahead and start laying things down. Not really much of that floral paper ended up showing in the end, but a little bit did, and I just wanted a little bit to tie back into that color and add a little bit of a frame around the photo. And that's how I used, underneath the picture as a frame, that's how I used that piece of this sort of overlay from crepe paper. Because it had a little bit of that pink, and I thought it gave a neat little kind of vellumish look. That's another paint swatch at the top that I think is kind of neat. They do those where they have a punch at the bottom so you can hold it up to things and match the color. So you see a little bit of the color all around it. So I think that got covered up pretty much. But so I think here's where I really commit to gluing everything down. One of the things I had been doing a lot of lately is to sort of do some watercolor using whatever is next to it kind of as the catalyst for the color and for the pattern and sort of for the wash, like it's bleeding a bit. Obviously this paper is perfect for that, but a lot of that comes from the Wilna Furstenberg art class I took, where she does a lot of that, and I think it's just lovely. And I think obviously in this situation with this paper, I thought it was a good way to have the paper but sort of make it a little bit softer edges and not have such a stark contrast there where I cut the bottom. And I thought it gave a nice sort of combination of having this sort of softness of the watercolor and the paper wash, and then the hard edges of it at the same time too. So this was the challenge that I did, and I'm the tic-tac-toe one. So I've got chipboard, a decorative stick pins, and 5 or more brads. And I didn't end up using any of those resin flower pins as it came out, but I did use a lot of these My Mind's Eye, smaller ones, the little heart, and just a regular sewing stick pin. And I picked this die cut out kind of about the same time I decided I wanted to use that paper because of the colors and because I thought I could do this sort of wash behind it with the watercolors. So that's part of the chipboard, and I used several other pieces from that same line from October Afternoon. I think it's Sidewalks. Or I think that's it. So then I have just trying to decide where to put all these pins. I thought about making little tiny flags with washi tape or something, but I ended up just pinning them sort of here and there across the edges of the photograph into the pop dots that I used. And I made a little banner at the top that I used some of the pins and more of the chipboard and the brass, and kind of did all that in a little cluster in the top left corner. That was a little bit difficult because the paper warped a little bit with the watercolor, and then trying to get those pins, you'll see I try to cut off one of the edges of the pins, and if I'd had proper wire snips it would have been a lot easier, but I'm sorry I'm a little bit out of frame. That little rounded tab that was one of the We Are Memory Keepers pieces from that pad I actually just used as the backdrop for my title. And this is where I'm going to try to figure out what I love those letter stickers. I keep pulling, or those thickers, I keep pulling them out to try to find somewhere to use them and haven't yet, but I thought this was a nice place, and it was a little bit subtle with a little bit of a bling. I apologize, I have horrible allergies right now. So that's the title, and then the underneath the little letter stickers I used those My Mind's Eye, just small lowercase letters, and it'll say letter for later. And like I said in the beginning, I thought it would be nice to have these little letters that I can write to my daughter and that she can read later when she's older, or when she's thinking about something else, or if we have something that reminds me of the time that I wrote this letter. And I thought that'd be a nice little way to convey the message of what's going on in our life right now without being too obvious about it, but also sort of as a little personal page just to her. And so I put so many envelopes and things like that on it, not everybody knows to look in it, so maybe that's not a good thing. But anyway, I'm going to speed it up here and get closer to the end, and I'll come back and talk a little bit more. You'll see what I do with the watercolor and how I mix it, and the rest of the placement of all of the embellishments there.
Alrighty, you can see I went through some decision-making issues with some of those brads and the chipboard at the top, but I just eventually used some washi to kind of anchor it down and use a little bit at the bottom to tie it in. And then this is where I break out the watercolors, and I keep just a bottle of water and a couple spritzers in my craft room so that I don't I'm really lazy about it, so that I don't have to go and refill little cups and all that. Sometimes the water does get too muddy on me, and like I said, I'm pretty lazy about it. But I just tested out the colors on just a plain piece of cardstock, and that's all this is just white cardstock that I mounted the whole thing on, so it takes it pretty well. I did dab a good bit of the water off so it didn't warp up too much, but I just kind of took cues from what was next to it, whether it was the chipboard or that wash of the piece of paper, and tried to match the colors and bring them down a bit. I really wanted it to look like, especially at the bottom, like that paper has sort of just bled the color off onto the white cardstock and kind of blended it all together. So, like I said, I did dab a good bit of it off. And I did a little bit there on the right, but it didn't really take well on that paint chip. So I'm going to clean that up, and then I am going to go ahead and write this letter. And I pulled it out. It's just a piece of the ruled paper that was in a little Amy Tan sketchbook, little sort of mini book that I never used as a mini book. I just tore out the pages, and there were a bunch of these left, so it's just got a nice little yellow rule on it. And I didn't really care that it wasn't, you know, super fancy piece of paper, and I really wasn't too careful about my handwriting, or I just wanted to write her a letter just like I would sort of be talking to her, or, you know, sort of writing a little wish and hope for her. It turned out I had a lot to say. So after I get done with that, I tuck it back into the envelope, and then I believe that is it. You can see the close-ups and the final product at the end. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to go to the Scrap Our Stash blogspot blog to check out the challenge and participate. They have a neat prize and lots of really, really good inspiration from all the other DT members, and I can't wait to see what anybody comes up with. As always, I'd love any feedback or comments, and we will see you next time.